we've got our big chunky pieces of wood on here that we're going to make our other arm out of. So let's get to work on that. One thing to point out here is I used that gel super glue, and typically I like to use like a tight bond glue or epoxy. I use that gel just as a little faster solution, and it's what I happen to have here. And I also use the accelerator. So when you use an accelerator with that glue, it turns it white. There's kind of a white residue on there, but that's not a big deal. We're going to end up carving all of that off anyway. So let's just start breaking this down. I'm going to work back here on the shoulder, get some of this excessive stuff off of here that's just we put on there so we could carve it away and get it all in one seamless piece. So we're going to be a little aggressive here and try to take off some big pieces. Again, that slicing, don't just try to push it straight through, kind of do the slicing thing. It's hard to hold on to with those arms sticking out there. So give your hand a workout taking out those bigger slices. Let's get some of these pencil lines off the outside here, and we'll make some new sketches on there now that we have it in place. Okay, moving right along here, bringing this in. We'll round this where it's split off here a little bit. Just kind of smooth that out a little bit. Not like we're where we need to be yet, but want to just kind of get this cleaned up a little bit here, and then we're gonna sketch what we want to go after. Okay, so bring it across here. We're gonna want to smooth this back in, right along there. So that's gonna put our shoulder sitting about right here. Something like that. Okay. And we're going to bring that down kind of like this. And let's just take a quick check over here. Want these to be fairly close to the same, of course. And that's about 1.5 inches there. So, and that's going to get carved down a little bit over here. So basically, the way it's sitting is we're going to want to have that almost down to the bottom and then round it off. Something like that. And then we'll have that angle down, of course, like the piece is here. And if we say basically the center of the elbow is right there. On this side, we go from roughly the center of the elbow to where the fingers were straightened out, or a little more straight anyway. It's about 2.5 inches. So if we come over here, so somewhere in here is going to be where my other hand comes out. So I may have the wrist bent in a little bit too, about this way, not just like straight out like a robot hand or something. We can have it come out here and the wrist turned and in and down a little bit with my thumb rolled in. That's kind of what we're going to go for. So knowing that now, we'll just continue on here and bring this down a little more. Clean up some of this glue on here. It's almost better to try to get just under that where that glue is sitting. Take a little wood with it. And it seems like that might be a little easier on your knife. So you're not pushing through that glue. Glue itself is actually kind of hard. It's brittle, but it is kind of hard. It's kind of less than ideal for a knife blade. Maybe we can see if we can just get a piece to come off here. Okay, starting to shape up here. Just trying to push some big chunks off the back here just to move us along. I'm going to take off some of the front of the arm here. Come in here, try to clean off some of this glue again. You can see we have a little bit more of a glue line over here. We did on this side. We didn't have that as nice and flush when we glued it on there, but that'll be okay. We're going to paint over that anyway. Okay, if we take a look here, it looks like the outside of our shoulder needs to come down a little bit more yet. And then definitely the right in here needs to come down quite a bit. So we'll work on that here. Have an awkward, we'll find the spot here. There we go. At some point, we're going to have to decide what kind of shirt I'm going to have on here. If we want a collared shirt, we got to start thinking about leaving some wood there for that. I'm thinking I might just throw a t-shirt on this guy. Sounds comfortable, doesn't it? Taking a little off the back, it was starting to, as around these shoulders in, it's starting to have a pretty awkward hump back here. I've got plenty of awkward humps, but I think that was a little bit much even for me. It's an interesting exercise to try to carve yourself, and yeah, looking pretty balanced on the. We got to come down a little bit more on the top, I think. Now there's the end of that dowel we put in. Looks like we were actually quite a ways back. We're not going to end up with much of it in the arm, but that's fine. It might not even be a necessary step to pin those like that. I just, that's what I do. I don't know. You can let me know if you've done stuff like that, if it's really even necessary to pin those. As we get closer to the elbow here, I want to start trying to curve it a little bit so it's not just a harsh transition to the forearm. You have that cut in maybe just a bit far off the bandsaw there. Clean up that glue. Been kind of getting a little wild there with the knife, making some knife marks on my chest. I want to, as we get closer to done here, I want to be careful that we can clean them up for now, but eventually we'll want to leave that wood there, and we don't want a bunch of knife marks on it. Okay, I'm getting, sometimes cutting from all these different directions, you end up with this kind of slivery choppiness. You can usually shave that off with a knife, but it's kind of hard to reach in there with my knife. I'm going to take this number 2 gouge. It's basically is pretty close to flat. Works really good to get in these tight spaces and just kind of clean up those marks. We'll take our number 8 here, back in this area here. Clean that up a little bit. Getting a little bit awkward to hold on to. You got to come up with some creative handholds here. Round a little bit of this side off. It's starting to split out. Got to go this direction. We'll kind of pull that up closer to the hand because we want to take our time and plan out that hand a little better. Remove the saw marks and get it rounded off here. That number 2 and try to clean up these cut marks down in here. Didn't leave ourselves much room there, did we? All right, make it work. Okay, a little bit tricky to clean this up underneath the arm. Again, you don't want to pry in there. Like we did on the other arm, we want to kind of bring the top of the forearm, curve it down so that we can curve back up towards the hand. Now I think we've accomplished that inside elbow that isn't too harsh. Still think we need to probably bring this something like that. Take a little of that corner off. Our poor dowel pin we put in there isn't there's going to be much left of that when we're done here. That's all right. Okay, now I think that's looking pretty good there. We've got the arm, this arm, pretty close. We got about the same stage as this one. We'll do a little fine tuning, cleaning, tweaking as we get closer to the end of the project. I went ahead, drew some lines on here, kind of the direction I'm going. You can see we have way too much material. This part of the arm sticks out too far. I knew that was the case. I just wanted to have plenty there. So let's go ahead and start removing some of this out here. Now, there's a lot of leverage out here, and this is getting fairly small, so we want to make sure we have our thumb supporting as we're cutting some of this off. It does cut kind of hard out here. You definitely want support from your thumb, or you will break it. And see, I was cutting this way and it was cutting really hard. So you just change your direction a little bit. Use the wood grain to your benefit. I still got a lot to go there. Start bringing this in over here. Go back here, we want to narrow the arm some as well. Because my arm is rotated at the elbow here. This line I drew across this way is representing my wrist. Gotta be careful going that direction. Bring it in this way. So I want to kind of narrow that up and then curve it up right at the wrist. All right, so now need to study. So the bottom side of my arm. So the bottom side of my arm is coming up pretty much in line with my hand comes down just a little bit outside of my arm, and I'm just going to have kind of a relaxed, this out of the way, just going to have kind of a relaxed hand like this. is the plan. So, and I'm going to have this glove. I want to carve it with this glove on there. And I usually have that rolled up, so I'll have to make that thicker right behind the wrist. I kind of forgot to do that. We'll have to do that about next here. So the wrist was here. It'll come about right here. And just take a little cut line right across here. Let's cut up to that just to step the back edge of the glove up a little bit. Now, if you've noticed, I get really slow and deliberate when it comes to these finishing touches. I just like to take my time. Scary sound. I think maybe in a future project similar to this, I'm going to take a little different approach, and you get the arm positioned up there and not really, would not carve it complete to the finished size, but get it pretty close. And then before we glue it, we'll pull it back off. And then if it's a situation like this where it's actually out away from the body, I'm going to carve this part before I attach it to the figure. I think I'd have a little more success that way. This just gets to be hard to reach in there, hard to get it the way I want it. We'll get there for sure. We always do. Why do I keep saying we? Who's in? Is anybody in here? And no, it's just me. No, I don't know why I say we. Anyway. Yeah, so now on this back side of this arm here. Okay. Like that. We got that set in there. Now we'll have to come forward a little bit here and carve back to it this way to represent the rolled up part of my glove. Oh, none of this is really necessary, I suppose. I just want this to be a representation of me as I usually am when I'm carving. And that has a carving glove and a thumb guard. Come around this way. I don't think I'm going to be able to get this all the way around. We'll see. Someday I would like to take some classes. I've never done that. It would be nice to get somebody else's perspective, learn some new techniques, things like that. If you guys have done that, if you found something that was really enjoyable, really beneficial, let me know in the comments. I'm certainly not a master carver, but I enjoy carving and I'm getting better at it all the time. So. Okay, we took a little strap break there. Okay. This is where we want to carve a little, study a lot, carve a little. Okay, right now it looks like this hand is pretty much straight up and down. I think I'm going to give it a little bit of a roll to the inside here. Just going to do that by angling my knife like this as I bring this down a little bit. Okay. Now we kind of want to, oh, we got to go this direction. We got to kind of round this up from the wrist here. Like that. Well, the pinky, my pinky, and other finger here has a tendency to curl in just a little bit more when my hand's relaxed. So on here, we want to kind of bring that. I wanted to roll it in, which I have done some. Well, maybe up here like this. Down here, kind of do the same. I want that cut in a little more. Something like that. And the grain is getting a little bit wide out here, and have to be super careful. Likes to split out. And I'm going to roll this edge a little bit here. Not very much. I don't like sharp edges on stuff like this. And it's a little thick right up here too. Bring that down. Grab the outside edge. I was thinking about trying to leave a little piece for a tag like this, but if I decide to put a tag in there, I'll have to do something different. Maybe I'll get a little piece of white cloth, or maybe I'll even take a piece of this tag, cut a little square, and glue it in there or something. That's getting pretty detailed at that point. Which, if you have the patience and the time to do that, every little thing like that adds more interest to your carvings and makes people look at them a little bit longer and notice more things. My fingers kind of, so the back of my hand here, I think we would need to kind of change the plane here a little bit. Like, so yeah, my wrist here, and then just kind of flat, then row of knuckles, and then it curves. And on here, kind of have a hump, bump, flat, and then not a curve. I think we want to back here a little bit. Try to flatten it out just a little bit more. Something like that. And then, so that going on. And we'll say my knuckles are right here. So we can maybe bring this, we'll start back here. And I'm just going to kind of work that angle out to this line. Hopefully you can see that. Maybe I'll zoom in on that a little bit. So we have the knuckles there, and then we'll pivot our angle over the top of the knuckles. There. Now we have that bend coming up there. And from that point, this is just going to kind of curve around. Again, we get down here and you're doing the fine details and you're on a piece that has potential for breaking off. I'm supporting with my fingers here, and I'm doing a lot of slicing, pulling that knife this way to slice those pieces off rather than just push the knife through it. We need to bring this. Now this is pretty straight up and down here. And as I mentioned before, the smaller pinky and next finger over from the knuckles, kind of want that tucked under a little more like this. Now this is going to be difficult here. We may, I think what I'm going to do, if we get a straight down shot here, we'd have just enough room to get a drill bit here. I'm going to start with a super small one and just try to increase the size, drill out some of that in there, because I don't think I'm going to be able to carve that. And maybe I could if I came in like this. We could try that, I suppose. But I think we're going to drill the hole back here. Your hand's relaxed. My hand is relaxed. It's kind of a, it's not a perfect circle, but there's a circle right through there. So. Okay, we can also start thinking about drawing in some, I'm going to draw in some fingers here, but I need to sharpen this pencil first. Okay, we're going to try to relieve some of the wood from the center of the hand here. I just got a fairly small drill bit. I think it's 3/32 maybe. Size, it really whatever fits in here, I guess. But we got to be very careful about our direction and not to apply any side pressure when we're going through here. I think I'm going to come out here. We're going to try to cut into there. Carefully start kind of cutting the outline of the fingers here, and then working my way back in from that. We'll have the thumb. This can be very tedious and a little bit nerve-wracking to get down in here. And one of the key things that I've found, but I haven't, one of the things I've found by doing other projects, when it comes to working on hands or things where there's small, easy to break off things, you just have to take your time and use light pressure, and don't force the knife in there. You force your knife in there, and that creates pressure from trying to separate things. And that sideways pressure can start breaking stuff. This small number 11, see if we can, that'll help us clean some of this out here. And be careful of that thumb. I put out a video about talking about how to make wood easier to carve, and part of that video was some techniques, and that's thin shaving cuts, and that it's kind of what I'm trying to achieve here, just so I don't have to put so much force on these pieces that are going to be a little bit fragile. So I'm just trying to, push the knife to slice instead of just pushing it directly through the wood, and just shaving off little bits at a time. It's kind of a combination of knife and gouge and patience. Patience and keeping yourself focused here, because there's not a lot of room for error. Now we're getting down to the hole we drilled. I'm gonna slide this Helvy knife under here just for a little support. That way I can, it's hard to hold this, support this, and get a good camera shot on it too. So I'm gonna try to hold that right in there. Doing the old wiggle push. There we go. If you want to give yourself a challenge, carve the inside of a small hand out with the already attached to the body. There probably was an easier way, I'm sure. And just to take a little breather from that, I'm gonna take this little flex cut gouge, and we're gonna mark out the outside of the fingers here a little bit. Again, see, I'm supporting the underneath side of that with my thumb, and we're just gonna go around here. We're not going very deep at a time. Something like that to start with. Why get in there? Just hard angles to get to. We'll figure it out though. Actually not looking too bad in there. And this is sometimes I go after details, and if somebody isn't picking it up off the shelf or wherever and really turning it around and studying it, it's not likely anybody's going to see this anyway. So at some point we have to decide it's not worth the risk of breaking something. But I like to get as much detail in everywhere as I can. Always learning, always trying to figure out how to do something. Now, this out here, remember this is going to be a gloved hand, so we don't want to cut that in too sharp. Thinking it's about time to stop on the hand here. Didn't somebody say it was about time to stop on this? Just trying to clean up the edges here. Okay, down to doing the ears, I think, is about what's next. And then we're getting really close. I'll have to make some glasses to put on him. And then I want to carve some words down here around the base. I'm going to go around the outside edge, angling away from the ear a little bit. A little bit deeper down here by this bottom lobe. Okay, and we'll just carefully come back here and cut up against it. My ears don't stick out away from my head very far, so that's kind of what we're going for here, since this is supposed to look like me when we're done. Up and top here. Smooth that into the top of the head. Carefully make a little bit of a shadow back here behind the ear. Now we're going to take the smallest gouge I have here. It's a very small number 11. And we're just going to kind of come out here. Turn that around and point it down towards the bottom of the ear a little bit. Not going to try to get an extreme amount of detail in here. They're just not very big. And we'll come up here in front of the ear. This make a little bit of a groove here. Right down the front side. Sometimes it's hard to tell if I have that gouge facing the right way. It's so small and it's shiny, so the light hits it. I think that's all we're gonna do. And clean up around it here. Smooth out the front edge of that groove we just made with the gouge. Try to get our pencil lines off of there. I think that looks about right. You can just barely see my ear from the front, and that's kind of how it works with me. In this picture, I can't even really see my ears, so maybe just tiny little bit. So that's kind of what we're going for there. Let's see if we can match the other side, or do the other side so it matches this side. Okay, I think you better leave that alone. Have you ever noticed when I say I think I better leave that alone, I never do. I keep working on it. All right, I think that looks good though. So, things left to do. Decided I'm going to carve a t-shirt on here. Be the same one like the one I'm wearing when we do the intro. We'll just do that t-shirt on here. It'll be the simplest thing to do.